Saint Gemma wrote her autobiography at the insistent request of Father Germanus, who became her spiritual director in January 1900, approximately 3 years before her death. At first, he directed his spiritual daughter by letter, coming to Lucca to see her for the first time in September 1900. He found Gemma writing a diary of the graces she received day by day. She was writing this diary under obedience to her regular confessor, Monsignor Volpi, auxiliary bishop of Lucca. Judging on general principles that it was not good to concentrate to such an extent on what was happening within, Father Germanus ordered her to stop and made her hand over to him all that she had written. But later, as he read the diary, he realized that while the principle on which he had acted was true, it did not apply to Gemma's case. He realized, in short, that he was dealing with a most extraordinary person. In order to remedy this mistake, he asked her to write for him a general confession of all her sins, that he might be better able to direct her. He knew that she could not write of her sins without telling the graces which made them appear so great to her. Gemma complied with his wish, though with great reluctance, as is indicated by the autobiography itself. In her letters, Gemma always refers to this document as her general confession. At the same time, however, it is evident that she did not look upon it as a sacramental confession. At least twice in the pages of the autobiography, she passes over points, explaining that she will tell him in confession. The autobiography, thus written in obedience to Father Germanus, filled 93 pages of a notebook, all written in her own hand. It covers the years from her infancy until September 1900, when she was 22 years old. She began writing the autobiography on February 17, 1901, and finished it in May of the same year. The manuscript copy of the autobiography still exists today, but a remarkable fact about the notebook is that every page has the appearance of having been burned. Father Germanus explains this phenomenon in his Life of Saint Gemma. Gemma's manuscript, when finished, was by my orders given to the charge of her adopted mother, Signora Cecilia Giannini, who kept it hidden in a drawer, awaiting the first opportunity of handing it to me. Some days elapsed, and Gemma thought she saw the demon pass through the window of the room where the drawer was, chuckling, and then disappearing in the air. Accustomed as she was to such apparitions, she thought nothing of it. But he, having returned shortly after to molest her, as often happened, with a repulsive temptation, and having failed, left gnashing his teeth and declaring exultantly, "War, war, your book is in my hands." So she wrote to tell me. Then, owing to the obedience which she was under to disclose to her vigilant benefactress everything extraordinary that happened to her, she thought she was obliged to tell her what had occurred. They went, opened the drawer, and found that the book was no longer there. I was written to at once, and it was easy to imagine my consternation at having lost such a treasure. What was to be done? I thought a great deal about it, and just then, while at the tomb of Blessed Gabriel, a fresh idea came to my mind. I resolved to exorcise the devil and thus force him to return the manuscript if he had really taken it. With my ritual stole and holy water, I went to the tomb of the blessed servant of God. And there, although nearly 400 miles from Lucca, I pronounced the exorcism in regular form, and at the same hour the writing was restored to the place from which it had been taken several days before. But in what a state! The pages from top to bottom were all smoked, and parts burned, as if each one had been separately exposed over a strong fire, yet they were not so badly burned as to destroy the writing. This document, having thus passed through a hellfire, is in my hands. Earlier in this video, I touched a little on how Saint Gemma was reluctant to share her stories, but out of obedience she did it anyway, and I guess it's worth sharing what she wrote to Father Germanus about this. My dear Father, you must understand that at first I intended to make a general confession of my sins without adding anything else, but your guardian angel reproved me and told me to obey and give a short summary of all that has happened in my life, both good and bad. How difficult it is, dear Father, to obey in this matter, but please be careful. You may read and reread this as often as you wish, but do not show it to anyone else, and when you are through with it, burn it up immediately. Do you understand? The angel promised to help me recall everything to mind. I told him plainly and pleaded with him that I do not want to do this. I was frightened at the thought of recalling everything, but the angel assured me that he would help me. I think, dear Father, that when you read this and learn of all my sins, you will be angry with me and will no longer want to be my Father. Still, I hope that you will always be willing. So prepare yourself to learn of every kind of sin. And you, dear Father, do you approve of what the angel told me, that I should speak of my whole life? That's his order, and I take for granted that's what is in your mind and heart. By writing everything, both good and bad, you will be able to see better how bad I have been and how good others have been to me. You will see how ungrateful I have shown myself toward Jesus and how much I have failed to listen to the good advice of my parents and teachers. So I begin the task, dear Father, live Jesus.